tell me about the Olivia who arrived at Rhodes University.
Well, I arrived there as an officer of the South African security branch. I suppose the one thing I really wish in retrospect is, well, even then, that I'd arrived there without being a member of the security branch. Because it was the first time in my life I felt really at home somewhere, when I started learning about what had gone on in South Africa in the decades preceding that, the real history that I'd never learned at high school, the terrible things the apartheid government was doing. I mean, it was the time of forced removals, and the uprooting and the disruption and the terrible effects that apartheid had on people. I only started really learning about then. I had such a cocooned existence. It seems hard to believe, but I honestly, I didn't know anything about that history. I didn't know anything about the ANC. Didn't know anything about the Soweto uprisings. I didn't know anything about that, and I learned it all there. I also started learning about feminism. I'd never come across that before, and that was really meaningful to me. And so I was like a kid learning from, like a sponge, all right from the beginning. And that left me with a dilemma, because there I was, really wishing that I had just come there as a student and that I was doing all this for me. And I was there under false pretenses.
At what point did you decide that it wasn't for you anymore and you wanted to change sides?
It didn't take that long. I knew as soon as I read all and encountered all the anti-apartheid ideology, if you like, I knew straight away. But my dilemma was, what do I do about it? I wasn't just somebody who was a paid informant who could just stop. Of course I could have stopped at any point. People say, well, why didn't you just stop? And that was always a choice. I could have resigned from the police, left. I would have had to leave Rhodes. I would have had to go somewhere else. I probably couldn't ever have really participated in the democratic movement because I would have been an ex-police person, and the police would have made sure people knew that. And so I decided that the best way I could make a contribution was to become a double agent eventually, to stay in place, to not alert my security branch handlers to the fact that I'd had a change of heart, but just to carry on doing the job until I found what I thought was an appropriate opportunity to defect to the ANC.
Tell me about defecting to the ANC. It didn't go very well for you, to say the least.
It didn't go according to my great plans at all. Well, it did seem to at first, because I thought when I asked Howard Barrell to set up the meeting with the ANC in Harare, that now that I was in the frontline states, there was much less chance of electronic surveillance by the security branch or anyone knowing, or of the person that I was approaching actually being a security branch agent themselves. I thought outside of the country there was a much better chance of them not knowing. And so when I met Garth Strachan in Harare, it was a very important moment for me. I mean, for years I had wanted to do it, but I hadn't actually made the step. And saying to him on that park bench, my name's Olivia Forsyth, I'm a lieutenant in the security branch of the South African security, of the South African police, and I've come here because I want to work for the ANC, was a huge moment for me. It was my way of putting things right. And I felt, because I was a relatively high level, I was a lieutenant, okay, it wasn't a great rank, but I was a relatively high level defector, and I felt I had the opportunity to go back into the security branch ranks and actually provide the ANC with really valuable information. So it seemed to go well at first, and I, Garth Strachan and the other people I worked with gave me the right cover stories to take back to the security branch, and so for a while I was back into giving the ANC information. So I was doing a similar thing, but with a new master and with a new objective now, and I thought that it was going to go according to plan.